After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour. And let's get to business updates now. World Bank has expressed commitment towards supporting Sri Lanka's economic recovery and development. Now, in a letter addressed to Sri Lanka's newly elected president, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, the World Bank recognized that the country's economic reset requires the state's continued attention and added that opportunities for growth, prosperity and development are equally significant. Earlier this week, Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kristalina Georgieva, said that the IMF is looking forward to working with Sri Lanka's newly elected president. President Dissanayake had said that his government will initiate discussions with the IMF immediately to take forward the ongoing program and conclude a deal with its external creditors for debt relief. The leader had pledged to ensure better living conditions for the common man by relaxing austerity measures as the country makes efforts to recover, even as the external debt restructuring process is in its final stages. Our correspondent, Dr. Ahmed Muin Farooqi, joins us from Colombo. Ahmed, good morning. Now, the World Bank has expressed commitment towards supporting Sri Lanka in its economic recovery. Help us understand how significant is this assurance by the World Bank, given the way Sri Lanka is, still trying to get back to normalcy?
Good morning, Preeti, and a very good morning to all our viewers. Primarily speaking, we have to understand this, that Sri Lanka went through a worst kind of an economic crisis, and the meltdown was seen in 2022, when people had to protest onto the streets coming out against the policies of the previous regimes, because of which Sri Lanka witnessed an acute forex crisis, thereby thereafter causing a short supply of several essentials which were imported at that point of time. Now, days after the election in which President Anura Kumara Dissanayake won the elections, in a televised TV address, he has said that he will initiate talks with the International Monetary Fund. Now, International Monetary Fund had already sent a letter saying that they are committed towards Sri Lanka's economic recovery. Now, yesterday, World Bank Group was also given a letter in which the Vice President of South Asia Group, Martin Reiser, has also committed in a similar manner. Now, if we have to look at this in a broad perspective, yes, the IMF deal is currently on. The debt restructuring is almost complete with regard to the external debt. The ISB debt portion, which is the portion which is held by the private bondholders, that is nearing completion. And considering all these things, it appears like Sri Lankan economy is back on track. It is at least in the direction of being back on track. But primarily speaking, President Dissanayake had campaigned in his election phase that he would, if he's voted to power, he would bring about certain relaxations in the austerity measures, thereby making life easier for people who have been struggling over the last 2 years. Now, in a general sense, this is a positive development, but if there is a renegotiation and if the debt sustainability analysis, which has already been completed by IMF, is renegotiated, there is a possibility there could be delays in the release of tranches as well as other provisions of the IMF deal. That is one part of it. The second part is the World Bank is also an equally important multilateral organization here, which contributes towards various projects and recoveries which are made by several developing countries. Now, these are very, very crucial for Sri Lankan economy to come back on track. We are still aware that it is still on a knife's edge, as the external debt is something which is huge, and it is still around 100% of the GDP. Now, GDP is on one end, it is still low, and it needs to be increased. Government revenues have to be ramped up, and a lot of other activities have to be taken up to ensure that the exports are increased further. Now, these are the issues which are facing the new government, while at the same time, a positive thing is that with World Bank and IMF committing that they would continue to work with the new government, it's probably a positive kind of a thing, with the possibility that there will be some headway further into this, and the economy can see certain positive signs further. Preeti.
All right. You're telling us that the economy is on track for recovery, and also given the fact that the island nation has seen a change of guard and also this assurance coming in from the World Bank. Ahmed, how do you evaluate, the progress that is being made in the country, one? And also, President Dissanayake has pledged for better living for the countrymen. But then when we talk of, you enlisted the issues that his government faces. But at the same time, what is the way forward? Has any plan been, been put in place? Or, how do you evaluate the pace or the progress that is being made in the island nation?
Preeti, you see, 2022 in July, after the then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was ousted, he resigned and he fled the country. Ranil Wickremesinghe was elected by the parliament to complete the tenure of Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and he was named as the president at that point of time. Ranil Wickremesinghe had adopted certain policies. He also made efforts to enter into the IMF agreement, because of which certain measures were put in place, like increasing income tax, as well as putting a stop on import of non-essential items, and various other measures, including the monetary policy, activities done by CBSL. Now, all this has led to some amount of stability in the nation. We had seen 70% inflation in 2022. Now the inflation is down to below 5%. In fact, for the last month, for the month of August, the inflation figure is below 2%. And that's a huge development coming from 70% to this level. Now, that is one. Secondly, the forex reserves are up from almost nil to about $5.7 billion. This is also a very positive development. However, we also have to remember that several non-essential imports are not coming in. Now, for the new government, there is a considerable challenge, and new government has already made efforts towards some amount of relaxation in the austerity measures. They have yesterday announced that the fertilizer subsidy will also be increased for the farmers. This is a positive step towards, promoting the agriculture sector. That said, there are several challenges which the government faces, and that is where it needs to be seen if they will be able to deliver on their promises, because they had talked about reducing income tax, they had talked about reducing VAT, they had talked about reducing electricity tariffs, and at the same time, they had also talked about reducing the petrol and diesel prices as well. So a lot of challenge exists because they have to find ways how they would increase the revenues of the government while they fulfill these promises. Now, generally speaking, yes, today there are no queues anywhere. Yes. As I see in Sri Lanka, there are no shortages of essentials, but still, as I said, the debt still remains, and the external debt is something that Sri Lanka would start repaying in 2029, because moratorium has been finalized till 2028.
Right.
Now, this is something very, very, very crucial for Sri Lanka as it commits towards repayment of its external debt. It had reneged on its external debt commitments in 2022 April.
All right, Ahmed, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details and that analysis. And the International Monetary Fund's board approved a long-awaited $7 billion bailout deal